17th, 1990. Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Despain. The Winston Cup Stock Car season is over. Tragedy shared the stage with Dale Earnhardt's championship triumph. We'll have the entire story tonight on Motorweek. We'll also see the CRA's defending sprint car champ battle back. IMSA's GTO road racing champ makes an impressive stock car debut. And in funny car racing, big names are throwing in the towel. But we begin with the Atlanta Journal 500, the Winston Cup Stock Car season finale, marred by the death of a Bill Elliott crew member during the final caution period of the 1990 season. That tragedy overshadowed the final battle between Mark Martin and Dale Earnhardt, season-long rivals for a championship worth $1 million. In retrospect, the tone for the finale was set last week when Earnhardt took a psychological edge, cut short a test session, said, "I'm ready," and went deer hunting. Martin tested for 3 days in all of his own cars, plus a loaner from Davey Allison, elected to run the Allison car on Sunday. Earnhardt's car owner Richard Childress characterized that as a desperation move. Martin acknowledged as much, admitting he'd have been outrun had he not changed cars. Well, come Sunday, he was outrun anyway, while the largest crowd in Atlanta Motor Speedway history, a standing room only throng of 91,000 die-hard stock car fans, gathered to cheer their respective favorites. Leading by 6 points, Earnhardt qualified 6th. Martin came from 11th. Rusty Wallace, in his last race as champion, started from the pole. Earnhardt in the black 3 quickly displayed characteristic aggressiveness that won him 9 races this year and enabled him to dominate the last 2 Atlanta outings, leading 3/4 of the laps here en route to back-to-back wins. In the same lap, he passed Alan Kulwicki for 2nd and then Wallace for the lead and 5 bonus points. But Martin would get an early break. Poncho Carter and Chuck Bound tangled and brought out a yellow that led to an all-too-familiar NASCAR scoring snafu. Earnhardt had just pitted under green, then had a flat tire under caution. During the arguments about who should restart where, Dale pitted again, and Martin made a yellow flag stop. By the time Jeff Bodine was held at start-finish and inserted as the race leader, Mark was 5th, Dale 18th. The two met a few laps later while racing for 12th. Martin, fighting a loose race car, was going backwards, Earnhardt moving slowly toward the front. Meanwhile, this trio would lead 175 of 328 laps. The Bud Thunderbird of Jeff Bodine, Bill Elliott's Coors T-Bird, battling for 3rd and 4th in the standings, the difference worth $65,000 from Winston. Darrell Waltrip in the Orange Tide Chevy hoped to avoid his first winless season in 15 years. He'd salvage 20th in the rankings, worth $22 grand. At the 1/3 mark, a rejuvenated Martin repassed Earnhardt for 9th. And Mark knew this was his last shot. He had to put at least 3 positions between himself and Dale to take the crown. But 222 laps of green flag racing played right into Earnhardt's hands. His good wrench over the wall gang, who pride themselves on getting their man serviced and out first, turned in predictably perfect pit stops under green and helped move Dale steadily toward the lead. From lap 130 to the end, Earnhardt never trailed his championship rival Martin, who spent most of the day looking for the right chassis setup and overcoming minor but meaningful problems. Here's one example, a stop on which Earnhardt's crew was a couple of seconds faster, and under green that translates to a lot of racetrack. Now Mark tried to keep the heat on, stayed within a position or two of Earnhardt until his last green flag stop when he dropped off the lead lap. Meanwhile, Morgan Shepherd's 91 paint job on display. While on the track, Morgan had the lead. Runner-up here in the spring and looking for his first win in 4 years, Shepherd was helpless, though, as Earnhardt whizzed by with 100 laps to go, a man determined to hang on to that $1 million bonus. For Martin, another slip backward, the ignition failed. Bodine almost ran over him before Mark could flip on the spare. Less than 50 miles from the end, a Rick Wilson spin brought out the ill-fated caution that led to disaster in the Bill Elliott pit. We'll get to that in a moment. Shepherd emerged from the melee with the lead, while Earnhardt was a comfortable 3rd. Martin a lap down in 6th. That meant the only thing that could rob Dale of his 4th title was some sort of mechanical disaster, and that is what kept his car owner Richard Childress chewing his nails right down to the last lap. Not to worry, Richard. When the final checker of the 91 season fell on Morgan Shepherd, it was celebration time for Chevrolet, for the Good Ranch crew, and mostly for the 4-time Winston Cup champion, Dale Earnhardt.
We've been been fighting back ever since '87, trying to win another one. And it's been a long time coming. You know, we were close 2 years in a row there, and Rusty got us with 12 last year, so we're happy to get it this year. We're really happy for everybody that helped us, and really appreciate everybody's help and all the fans' support this year. It's been a great year for us.
You said it would take a lot to make up for that last lap at Daytona. This must do it.
Well, it does. The championship means a lot to us, and we'll go back to Daytona '91 and try to get one. I reckon we ought to have a Dale Wynn sale at the Dale Earnhardt Chevrolet in Newton tomorrow and the next day, maybe 2-day sale. Come on up and get your car.
All right, Chevy shoppers, here's your top 5 in the race, including a career-best 4th place for Dale Jarrett, while the championship standings show Earnhardt on top by 26. Bodine's 3rd was a career best, and Mark Martin's team manager, Steve Meal, summed up the season as succinctly as anyone. Steve said, quote, "No sad songs here. We ran second to the toughest cat in the alley." In the Manufacturers' Championship, Ford ran second to Chevrolet by the narrowest of margins. The brands actually tied on points. Tiebreaker is race win. Chevy won 13, Ford 11. Ford has never won that title. Chevy now has 8 straight.
I would imagine the price of the Cup will go up, and quite frankly, I wish the Daytona 500 was next weekend, because I really think the Chevrolet teams are ready.
And you can bet Dale Earnhardt is ready for his Daytona revenge. He is Chevrolet's top gun, and our top honor for the 2nd time in 2 weeks goes to Dale Earnhardt for his championship-winning effort at Atlanta. He is Motorweek Illustrated Racer of the Week. The final Winston Cup pit stop of the year was a disaster. The death of Mike Ritch, Bill Elliott's tire changer, took much of the edge off Sunday's celebration. Elliott had just turned into his pit stall, and the crew had begun its work when Ricky Rudd's car spun on pit road and slammed into the right rear of the stopped T-Bird. Ritch suffered critical head and chest injuries, while Jackman Tommy Cole escaped serious injury. Rudd was headed for the pit behind Elliott, the rear wheels locked under braking. Ironically, Ritch and Cole replaced Elliott crewmen who were injured in a similar incident at Riverside in 1987. Ritch was conscious in the moments after that crash and asked if Elliott still had a chance to win the race. He suffered cardiac arrest en route to the hospital and died during surgery about 4 hours after the accident. Mike Ritch was 32 years old. The organization that proposes to run an IndyCar race in Australia next spring resigned last week. An IndyCar official says that resignation resulted from local politics and not the controversy generated by the International Auto Federation's opposition to the race. Wherever the 91 events are held, PPG will make it worthwhile to be there. The Automotive Finishes division of Pittsburgh Plate Glass ups its point fund 25% next year to a cool $2 million. Couple of reasons to celebrate at a soon-to-be-closed Ascot Park over the weekend. The California Racing Association's final Don Peabody Classic lived up to its name, Classic. And a pair of CRA officials were back in the saddle just a week after being wounded in action. Last Monday, we showed you this scary moment. Manzanita Speedway in Arizona. Mike Peters spun John Reddick and T-boned him, and Peters flipped into the grandstand. Tony Otto with 34 stitches in his head. Flagman Tom Aldridge hospitalized with broken ribs, a fractured ankle, and a concussion. Saturday at Ascot, Otto back on the job in the tower, and Aldridge made his first appearance since getting out of the hospital and says he's ready to go back to work as soon as he can.
Things like that can happen. You know, I have no idea what the odds would be of something like that happening again. Certainly, I hope it's up into the millions, and I will be long gone by then.
All right, on the racetrack, Billy Boat, a late run into the history books, carving the first 17-second lap in the history of the Ascot Clay. On to the race, where Boat raced from 8th to 4th and then looped into the wall. He was okay, but out of it. As the laps piled up, leader Mike Kirby in pink comes under fire from Ron Schumann, who's battling Rip Williams for the CRA Championship. When Kirby clouded Rick Gaunt in the rear, Schumann in white slipped through into the lead. He stayed there the rest of the way, grabbed $10,000, his 3rd straight Peabody win, and an 11-point lead in the CRA Championship.
You know, I really don't want to see Ascot go. It's been my home track for about 12 years, and every chance I had a weekend off, I always flew to Ascot. I've won a lot of races here, and I'm really going to be unhappy to see it go.
Well, we all are, Ron. For devotion beyond the call of duty, though, Tony Otto and Tom Aldridge collect our U.S. Air Force Reserve Commander's Performance Award, and that will come to them from the 944th Tactical Fighter Group at Luke Air Force Base in Arkansas. And Sprint Cars provided the appetizer and dessert for this weekend's motorsports banquet in the Atlanta area. Yesterday's Winston Cup showdown at Atlanta Motor Speedway preceded by the Saturday night All-Star Sprint show at nearby Dixie Speedway. Number 7, Joe Gurney up front. Steve Kinzer getting radical behind him, squares off turn 4 big time and zaps into the lead, but not for long. Steve had smashed the track record in qualifying, but watch this pass by Bobby Allen, businessman racer with an eye on the bottom line. Bobby knows it pays $6 grand to win.
I got the lead. I said, oh my God, here we go again, $6,000. Because third's like $1,300. I said, oh, I got to win this thing.
And win it he did with Kinzer second. Sunday night, Kinzer capped the weekend with a victory on the oval at Rome, Georgia. Still ahead, a couple of road racers test their skills at Atlanta Motor Speedway. After decades of trying, stock car legend Charlie Glotzback has finally found a way to win at Atlanta. Charlie clearly dominant in Saturday's ARCA race there, but 2 road racing teammates made quite a showing. Phil Van Horn has their story.
Robby Gordon, off-road champ turned road racer, added stock cars to his repertoire, winning the pole for his first oval race.
I was going to be happy if I qualified in the top 10, and then in the race I was going to be happy to finish. Now, I got in the top 10, and we got our pole position, so I think we showed our speed now. I think the most important part is going to be to stay out of traffic and be consistent and finish.
Charlie Glotzback showed the kid that qualifying doesn't mean much to him by immediately taking the lead. But Gordon held his own and stayed close under the scrutiny of Ford's racing director, Michael Kranifus. Robby's day came to an abrupt end when the 53 of Joe Kosiski blew an engine, spilling oil on the track. On the restart, Gordon, running second but losing sight of Glotzback, lost it in the speedy dry and got introduced to the harsh realities of superspeedway racing. Robby was okay, said he had a lot of fun, but didn't really know what he was doing out there. When the field came around for the restart, Glotzback suddenly charged into the pits to change a flat tire, passing the pace car in the process. He was held in the pits by race officials and went a lap down. Charlie lived up to his reputation by charging past leader number 29, Bob Keselowski, to unlap himself. Keselowski then retired with a broken axle, giving the lead to Bill Venturini. But watch this, SCCA's GTO champ and Robby Gordon's teammate, Dorsey Schroeder, in the number 69, makes a strong move past Venturini for the lead. Dorsey's experience on the ovals has been limited to the IROC series, but he looked like he'll do well on the Winston Cup Tour next year. Schroeder's lead held until he was forced to stop for a splash of gas, handing the lead back to Chargin' Charlie. If Glotzback's car looks familiar, it's an old Dale Earnhardt ride with a Richard Childress-built engine. Throw in several members of Earnhardt's crew, including Childress as the spotter, and you've got it made, right? Not exactly. There were some tense moments, especially in the last mile. The crew hoping fuel would hold out. It did, but not without Charlie lifting a bit.
Richard was spotting for me, and he said, you got a 20-second lead. He said, slow down, because he said, I'm afraid we're not going to make it. And you know, the last lap, the fuel pressure gauge was fluctuating, so we couldn't have went much farther.
Glotzback winning yet another stock car race. A very impressive finish for Dorsey Schroeder. I'm Phil Van Horn for Motorweek Illustrated.
Now, last year, Bob Brevac went to Atlanta leading the ARCA championship. When the race was over, he'd lost the crown to Bob Keselowski. This time, Brevac returned with the championship wrapped up by just starting the race. And that's a good thing, because he got caught up with the 87 there of Joe Nimorowski and slammed hard into the wall on lap 67. He was out of the race, but the championship was assured, beating Keselowski for the crown he so narrowly missed winning last year. It has been 3 weeks now since the end of the Formula One season. ESPN's Grand Prix anchor Bob Varsha already suffering from racing withdrawal, so we gave him the first assignment to cover preseason testing for the 91 campaign. The 24 Hours of Daytona just 2.5 months away. Dan Gurney's Camel GT team is already gearing up.
All you race fans ruining a long winter without motorsports, take heart. It's just 11 weeks to the beginning of Speed Weeks here at Daytona, and the preparations have already begun. Just 4 days after winning the season finale at Del Mar, California, Dan Gurney's All-American Racers Toyota team rolled into the Speedway with an eye on February's season-opening 24 Hours.
Well, certainly the level of competition in GTP racing demands that you have some knowledge of how your particular machine and your team will fair in a 24-hour, and you can't do it except by doing it. The Porsche people have proved that over and over again. The Jaguar people have done the same. The Nissan people have expended enormous of efforts in trying to get there also. So yes, we have to do it.
It's full-time big business. I mean, you look at a lot of professions and a lot of sports. I mean, baseball players, they take off, and football players, those guys get to rest. In auto racing, you never rest. Never.
Of course, we need to keep doing that because all the other guys are also working very hard. The competition is getting very good in IMSA, and we are happy about it. We like that.
What Team Toyota is not so crazy about, however, is IMSA's plan to allow European Group C machines to run Daytona next spring, using fuel restrictions to offset their lighter weight and greater power.
I think it's going to be a good show. How fair it is going to be, we're going to have to wait and see. I mean, the cars ran head-to-head a couple years ago at Tampa, and in that particular case, it was the Nissan pretty much dominating the situation. And I understand Nissan's going to run their Group C cars, which is a pretty tough blow, could be a tough blow. We'll have to wait and see.
And so the testing goes on with stock cars, karts, and more sports cars to follow. Relax, fans, winter will only hurt a moment. From Daytona International Speedway, this is Bob Varsha.
Thanks, Bob. That will fuel the rumor that Willie Ribbs might be replacing Drake Olson next year. Drake came out of semi-retirement 2 seasons ago to give that Toyota its first GTP pole at Road Atlanta. He's gone back into retirement now and says this time it's for real. Still ahead, Chris Economaki's series on technology and racing and the fan cam. Drag racers are looking for work this week. Shirley Muldowney, former Motorweek Racer of the Year and 3-time world champ, reportedly released by car owner Larry Minor. Shirley's teammate Dick LaHaye, another past world champ, also given his walking papers. On the other hand, the defection of funny car drivers to the top fuel ranks, which began with Don Prudhomme and Kenny Bernstein in 1990, will continue in 91. The 84 funny car champ Mark Oswald has made it official. His Candies and Hughes team will go top fuel next year. And you're going to be seeing Scott Kalita joining his father Connie in that division. They'll have to decide whose car is going to be called the Bounty Hunter. Meanwhile, Bruce Larson hasn't found a sponsor, and unless he does so soon, he'll park his car just a year after winning the World Championship and earning a spot in the Smithsonian. And a new talent on the funny car scene, KC Spurlock, upset winner of the Winter Nationals last February, says, hey, I'm going stock car racing next year. Now, just a few years ago, the top fuel division was in trouble and funny cars were booming. That situation now clearly reversed, largely because of the driver perception that funny cars are more dangerous. Now, in his continuing series on technology and racing, National Speed Sport News editor-publisher Chris Economaki looks at drag racing.
We're with drag racing superstar Kenny Bernstein, an owner-driver in this business. Kenny, the advent of high technology to the touring drag racer, what has it meant and how has it changed the sport?
Well, it certainly is just as important here as anywhere. It means a lot of expense, but that's how you got to keep up with the Joneses. It starts with the computer. It tells us a lot of functions that the car does that we're able to make adjustments to that Dale Armstrong can do during each round. You can adjust the fuel now with 2 fuel pumps. You can put fuel right into each particular cylinder, all 8 of them. And the main area is the clutch area. The clutch is almost like a transmission today. It locks up 6 and 7 times down the
are off. Where are you in the competition?
Well, that's what's changed over the year, Chris, is that there's so many things now that we have to make work in unison together that if you're off in 1 or 2 areas, it messes everything up. In the old days, you did 1 or 2 things, you went out and raced, but you can't race like that anymore.
Difficult to be consistent.
More difficult today to be consistent in some aspects, but in others we have more reliability and we have better things to look at that the computer tells us, and the guesswork is taken out of it. But to make it all work, to take the guesswork out and put it together is the package. The combination is very tough.
Kenny, what if you don't have some of the adjustments right? Where are you in the competition?
Well, you can't be there. The adjustments and the combination is the whole key to any race car. The beauty today is that we have some things to look at thanks to the RacePack computer. It tells us some things that Dale can adjust to the car. But even when we make those adjustments, it doesn't always work. And when you get one of them out of a line or 2 of them, you're in trouble.
It is as much fun now as it used to be?
Oh, yeah, I still of it, Chris, every minute of it. It's a little tougher when you're not winning, but we're having fun with this thing.
All right, thank you, Chris. Drag racing is also featured in this week's fan cam, shot from the bleachers at the Chief Auto Parts Nationals in Ennis, Texas. Kevin Nunn grabbed his camera between rounds at the wheel of his Super Comp dragster and proved he shoots as well as he drives. First, Jay Payne, far lane, trying to qualify his alcohol dragster. Payne unhurt in that nasty-looking blowover. Next up, we're going to get a look at Jerry Caminito. That's his funny car in the near lane. About 300 feet out, the supercharger blows and took the body off the car. In the other lane, Bruce Larson's ET, the fastest in NHRA history. And during Sunday's first round of funny car action, Mark Oswald, far lane, loses 3 cylinders during the run that split the engine in half, totally destroys the car, and yet he turned in an ET of 5.40. Nice shooting, Kevin. A Motorweek Illustrated fan cam jacket on the way, and we'll be back with one more story right after this. Finally today, all the major motorcycle championships have been decided, and there's time for a little two-wheeled fun on the weekends. This is riders' meeting for an unusual event in which first-time participants have to pass an elaborate coordination test to demonstrate their qualification to ride. And then it's on to stage 2 of the preliminaries as promoter Ben.
When you go past some houses, kind of cool it if you can. State your name. Promise to ride fairly, cleanly, safely, and not make a jerk out of myself or anybody else on a motorcycle. You got it all right.
Now, one key here, obviously, is bike preparation.
I put a plug in it, and I put air in the tires.
Well enough. And so this diverse group of enthusiasts, physically, emotionally, and mechanically prepared for the test that lay ahead, arrived at the big moment, the launch of an army of 50cc motorcycles. Now, the North Georgia mountains were shrouded in clouds and fog for this, the True Grits 50cc fun run, but that didn't dampen the enjoyment one bit. The ride itself was great fun, and the organization was impeccable.
You may proceed to your next check, sir.
All right. I hope.
At day's end, trophies donated by the participants were given back to the people who donated them. And pro road racer Mike Smith, who led wire to wire, was awarded 5th place by the rather arbitrary scoring system. Mike, what'd you do to get in shape for this thing?
Well, I sat around and watched a lot of TV and didn't get off the couch too much. Used the remote control, never did get up and change any channels, and ate a lot of potato chips.
Training's an important part of winning, right, Mike? That's going to wrap it up for today. What do we got, 15, 20 seconds left? I want to remind you very quickly that the Winston Cup Stock Car Banquet will be live here on ESPN on Friday night, December the 7th. It'll be at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. I've got my tux ordered, and we're going to see you then. I want to also tell you that on the 24th of December, Christmas Eve, we will name Motorweek Illustrated Racer of the Year, and we'd like your nominations. Send them to Motorweek Illustrated at 410 14th Street, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. Let us know who you think was the outstanding racer of the 1990 season. We'll consider all the ballots and name the winner on Christmas Eve. That's going to wrap it up at this edition of Motorweek Illustrated. I'm Dave Despain. Thanks for joining us. See you next Monday night.
Thank you.